of Agile methods, holding certifications like PMP, Scrum Master, Six Sigma Black Belt, and more recently, he was recognized as the first PMI Discipline Agile Lean Scrum Master in Nova Scotia, and Winfield, the first in the world. An agilist writer, he published in specialized publications as projectmanage.com, pnmlink.com, and Medium. He also wrote AgilityTalks on YouTube, where he is inviting industry leaders to talk about agilists. In the left side, you can see his social media links. So, welcome, Eduardo.
Thanks a lot for the love introduction, Ricardo. So let me introduce my guest moderator for today. Is Ricardo Ferreira. He's an Agilist, product and project manager with 20 years of experience in IT, business, working in system development, process improvement, ERP implementation, and business management. He's specialist in a lot of agile and traditional methodologies, holding certifications as PMP, SMA, SMC, Kanban, management professional, and SAFe. And you can check his LinkedIn on the left side.
Thank you, Eduardo.
So, yes, welcome everyone. Here's the agenda for today on A.L.M.A, the Answer Software Company, a framework to agility. So we'll pass to the concept of the Agile Limbo, check some agility values that I believe that are key values for improving and enabling teams. We'll go through the A.L.M.A dimensions, actually proposing the framework, and we will have two case studies, one for meet the medium-sized company, the other one for meet the startup, and we will have a QA at the end. Again, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure for being here with a lot of people from all over the world. And last check, we have people from 5 continents on this presentation. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. And for this first slide, what I propose here, what these pictures remind you guys? So a lot of post-its in the table. Some of the ideas ruled out as we wrap them and place that into the trash. A lot of them wrap it out with the ideas that we see that are valid to us. So what these pictures remind you? For me, these pictures remind me that no matter what method we use for agility, we always have reached at some point the capacity of a framework. We we wrap around our ideas, we try Scrum, we try a lot of methods, we try a lot of different things, but at the end, sometime we eventually reach the limit of this framework and what this framework can contribute to us. If we talk about Scrum, it will be Scrum. If we talk about Kanban, it will be Kanban. But at last, these pictures remind me to we're trying to do different dynamics for agile methods and then reaching kind of the limit of these methods and cannot improve from there. So these pictures kind of remind me with me working with teams, trying a lot of different dynamics to engage the team. And this also works in everyday agility leadership, as our guests here. I'm sure you guys will remind that. So these pictures are here to remind us of our daily routines and how hard we try to engage our teams. And no matter what we do, sometimes we kind of reach the limit of our frameworks and how these frameworks can contribute to the empowerment and enabling of our teams and ultimately to its performance. So with that, I bring the concept of the Agile Limbo. So this is the S-curve of prescribed method adoption. So we start with high visibility and some performance over the time. And then while we start implementing any of the methods, the performance rate goes down. And we can see that it goes up again when the teams get more mature on the methods itself, at times go, but we certainly reach a plateau. And this plateau is what I call Agile Limbo. Is when we kind of reach the limits of of any framework. So we're not talking about Scrum, we're not talking about Kanban, we're talking about any framework and how we can improve for that. What we can make more to make sure that our teams keep improving regardless of the framework that we use. What I observed leading teams throughout all of my projects, throughout all the companies that I worked with, is that the issue normally is not in the method. So the concept of Agile Limbo says that we have a prescribed framework, iteration after iteration, things do not improve. You see low motivation and low engagement. So the issue is not in the method. We need to work what I propose here as key Agile methods. It's a more profound things that I observed in all of the teams that were underperforming through my career history. So the issue was not really in the method or the framework that we're trying to use or any of these things regarding a prescribed receipt for agility. The issue was more in how we work on the roots of agility with your team. And this is how I propose this key agile values for unlocking the performance of your teams. And for being able to do it, you need to ask the right questions. So the first key value for me in agility for unlocking the potential of your teams is accountability. And the key question for accountability is, do you know what you're accountable for? And we're talking about accountability here is really much more than responsibility. It's making sure that your team knows what piece and they feel that they own that piece. So for agility, accountability is not just responsibility, it's about ownership. It's making sure your team and the company and ultimately the people that each individual person that works with your team knows what they're accountable for, knows what they own. And if you start getting responses like, oh, I just code test my tickets, well, it's not a good answer because it's much more than that, right? Even for a developer needs to know that he's accountable for making sure that that app that he develops for is achieving the goals for your customer, for your clients, or that feature that he specifically writing for right now is achieving the goals for your company, ultimately giving value to your end customer. So it's not just about, okay, I just go test my tickets, right? Another bad response would be, okay, I'm responsible for a team of 24 people. So again, this is not the right answer. You need to be accountable for that team that developers, in a case of a development manager, a development lead, for your the people needs to feel or the team needs to feel that they're accountable for making sure that that app or that service, it can be a service too, like is meeting the goals to its customers, giving value to its customers in the end. And people needs to know they are not just accountable for a team, just not just accountable for that ticket, they're accountable for much more. So again, accountability in agility means ownership. And people need to understand that they need to want what transform your company vision into achievable goals. In a more modern approach, it will be what is your company uh, purpose and how you achieve that purpose, right? And be able to translate that into achievable goals to the team through all of the chain, not just manager, right? Everyone needs to know what they want and how they can contribute. So people need to stop saying I'm responsible for a team of XX people and start saying I own my company app, service, whatever that enables my customers to realize my company vision or my company purpose. And for being able to implement that, you need to create trust to be able to give authority and freedom to your team, the necessary authority and freedom to your team to be able to make them feel accountable and exercise that accountability. They really need to feel that they own it. And this brings us to the next value here that I propose in the A.L.M.A framework that is key for unlocking the potential of your teams, that is learning. And the key question for learning is, do you think you're safe to fail? And we're talking here about the concept uh, of the concept of here of like making sure that you have an environment where people feel that they are safe to fail, that people feel they can learn, that people feel that they can experiment, right? So that's why that's the key question here when you're talking about psychological safety. So if you get answers like, no, I never fail, well, this is not a good answer, because if you do not fail, you do not learn. And people need to have an environment that's prone to failing, but more than that, it's prone to learning. People need to be able to fail to learn, and leadership needs to promote that. And people need to, and of course, it also comes with accountability, right? You can fail, but you need to be accountable for errors, and much more important, learn from that. But if you have an environment that is not prone to learning, that not prone to failing, you never learn from there. And this is kind of the key thing here. To be able to learn, or to be able to improve, your team needs to be that they are safe to doing that. Another question here to be, no, I avoid it at all costs. And come on, who can learn if the environment or the leadership is just saying, oh, well, you can never fail. Like if I fail, I'll finger point you or find what the brute person that did that. So again, it's not about that. Creating a learning environment is making sure that people can fail, and they have the space to share and learn from there. This is how you improve and unlock potential of people and the teams, right? So again, it's not about formal training. People just try ask me like something like, okay, if I keep like training my people in a cycle basis, is that good? Of course it's good. Like learning is always good, knowledge is always good. You need to keep training your people for sure, and like identifying where the key areas that you need to make more formal training, and that's it. You need to do it, right? But it's not just about that. And it's not just about cycle reviews. People tell like, okay, people ask me like, okay, I'm following a framework like Scrum, and I have retrospectives. Come on, it's not just about that. It's making sure that you create a culture that people can share. They have space. They can understand how they can share. How can everyone learn from their mistakes, right? And this starts with making people part of the solution and not part of the problem. So no fear reporting here at all, right? We're talking about the concept of psychological safety. Learning loves storytelling. I had a CTO asking me sometime, like, how can I actually start a learning culture? And I told them, you can start like sharing a failure yourself, so people can feel that they can do it too. Like you can fail and you learn from your mistake, right? So it starts with that, and that's why storytelling is like key to learning. It needs to start from the top. You need to create some space for sharing and learning, so you can start the spark for a culture, right? So again, going back to the CTO example, like start yourself, like sharing when you made shit, right? And what you learn from that. And this is what's important here, like making sure that people have the trust and that they can see that they have space to learn and share. So again, it's not just about retrospectives. It's not just about cycle reviews. It's creating an environment that people are prone to learn and prone to make mistakes, so they can learn from that and share it with everyone. And this is how you actually have a learning culture. This brings us to motivation. And motivation is kind of a key thing here. When I talk about motivation, we always like think about company vision, company purpose. And the key question is why you're doing this. So going back to the power of W's, right? This can make a different webinar just talking about the power of W's. But yes, motivation is about the whys. It's about why you started your company. What's the company purpose? What's the company vision? This can like be or feel that it's okay. Everyone talks about vision, but it's not about that. Motivation is how you cascade that vision, how you cascade that purpose down to your people level. So everyone will know how they can contribute. It's not just about, okay, I have the vision, right? And everyone knows about it. So if you start getting answers like, because I'm told you, come on, you just like want to do like that little piece of the game. So this person is really not motivated. And if you get answers like, oh, just for the money, okay, again, money can be a part of the solution. And I believe that with like this global world that we have right now, makes more and more part of the package. But it's not about that. Motivation is what keeps people in their jobs, is how they are motivated with their work and not just about the money. So wrong answer again. So this starts with a clear vision. And these are not just beautiful words in a presentation. I see a lot of companies just like, okay, we have a vision, and keep like reviewing this vision in the monthly all hands meetings that they have. And it's not just about that, right? It's much more than that. You need to foster that culture, you need to foster that vision, and we need to be able to cascade that motivation and that vision down into achievable goals so everyone would know their piece and how they're motivated about that. This is not need to be fully thought out. People are motivated when they're hurt, so making sure that you include people in the discussion. So I had some questions with some people that would say, "Okay, Eduardo, how I can motivate people if they do not know even what they're doing here, right?" You need to start with that. So you can start asking people like, what do you think is your purpose here? How do you think that the feature that you're developing here, or that ticket that you're working right now in Jira, how it can contribute to that company purpose, that company vision? So make sure that people are part of the solution and not of the problem. And this brings us to our last value, that is autonomy. And for autonomy, the key question is, do you think you have all you need to do your job right? So making sure that people are enabled, that they have all the tools, they know where to go. So again, autonomy does not work well if all of the values are not balanced. So if you really know, if you really have like accountable teams that are in a learning culture, and they're motivated, so they know what are the piece of the game, what they own, right? And have here the autonomy to do that. So again, if we start getting answers like, how can I give autonomy if people do not know things? Again, it's not about that. So you need to start somewhere. You need to give trust, as we talked about on the accountability part. So you need to build a trust. And the learning value too is all about trust too. So you need to trust your people and start like giving autonomy in little pieces for that, right? And you get answers like, my manager never listened to me. Wrong again. You need to give space to people to learn, to make mistakes, and again, being part of the solution. So for being able to give trust and to give autonomy, you need to balance out all of the other values in a good way. So again, a wrong answer. So autonomy is kind of the epitome of agility. When we talk about autonomous teams, is really where we want to get, like in agility, like people that has autonomy to do their job right and know what they're accountable for. They can make mistakes and can learn from there, and they are motivated by the right things in the company, right? So autonomy is kind of the epitome of all of the other values. So this needs trust. This cannot live long if there are gaps in the other values. And rules and standards are good to set minimal boundaries, but never to limit improvement. So again, what I observed throughout my career with all of the teams that I led is methods are good starting point, but they can never be like standards to limit improvement, to create boundaries for people to improve, right? People need to be allowed to do things differently. You'll never get different results. So start with little things. Like, let's say, let's decide, ask your team, like, when you guys want to do the meeting, it already empower them, right? So start with little things, and it's kind of a daily exercise. Start giving them autonomy in little bits, and you'll see that people will feel more and more and more accountable, and we will have more and more space because they will feel that you trust them. And this brings us to A.L.M.A, the essence of your company. So with these 4 agile values, what I propose here is a way to measure them within your teams. So accountability. For accountability, I have proposed some dimensions here. So it describes who is perceived as accountable. So it starts with none, and then it's cascade down some levels from board to people level. So board only, area management, team leadership, and people level. That will be the ideal for the case. Learning describes how learning is being implemented. So it starts with none, and then some occasional training, some cycle reviews, And then 3 reviews are baked into the process, like you follow a method, and then a true learning culture. And then motivations describes how and who follows a company vision. So no vision, we have a vision somewhere. Upper management always talk about it. Team leadership has achievable goals tied to it, and people know what the vision is and how they can contribute. So for levels 3 and 4, we're really breaking down the vision into achievable goals, into achievable KPIs, and people know their part into achieving that goals, into achieving that KPIs. This brings us to the last dimension here, that is autonomy. And autonomy describes who is trusted by the company to make decisions. It starts with no one, just the boss, and then upper management only, area management, team leadership, and everyone. And everyone will be like ideal. And again, autonomy here is not chaos, it's people knowing what they own and being able to have the autonomy that they need to do their job right and own this, right? And this is the proposal for the A.L.M.A framework: accountability, learning, motivation, and autonomy in its 4 levels. And the proposal here is that you plot a graph to be able to show where the areas you need to improve. And this is the A.L.M.A framework. So this brings us to our first case study for the medium-sized company. So the idea here is that we analyze a scenario. For being able to analyze a scenario, we always make assumptions, and these assumptions I will make sure to explain that to you guys. And again, this is a case study for being able to show you how to use the framework. So you can have different assumptions than me for the scenario that I made, but this is in purpose. I want you guys to make assumptions. I want you guys to be able to learn how to think through and be able to use the framework to assess your teams, to assess your scenarios. So this is a scenario where we go through. I made some assumptions here to give that scores, and you guys need to do the same. So medium-sized company is a company with a boxed solution. They implemented Scrum for development team like 3 years ago. The clients are not satisfied with the quality of the features being launched and are complaining to management. The development and leadership team says everything's fine with the process, having the tickets completed, and the velocity is even improving during the last months. Squads says that they just do what is asked and do not know what's wrong. They also say that all of their ideas are rejected, but when things go wrong, they're the first ones to blame. So they feel that they own the failures and not the results. And yes, so this is kind of the scenario that I've seen in a lot of medium-sized companies, that they start with a framework implementation and then they kind of reach that limit and do not know what is happening. So the A.L.M.A framework helps them get to the root of the issue. So it's not about the method. It's about how you work the key values with your teams. So for the medium-sized company, what I propose here for accountability is area management only. Because if you get back to the scenario, you see that people actually do not feel accountable, as they know, like at a team level, as they know that they say that they just do what they are told to. They really do not feel accountable. Maybe area management does, because area management already has like some metrics to show that they're improving, like they're really improving in velocity and things like that. So let's say that based on that scenario and making these assumptions, area management feel accountable here, because they're like giving some answers to the leadership, and to their limit, they think that things are improving. And for learning, I propose like 2 here, some cycle reviews, because they clearly follow Scrum. Uh, and Scrum has some cycle reviews. So we can talk about retrospective here, like for Scrum, but let's say that they have some also cycle reviews within some customers, that they actually demo the product to customer and things like that. So yes, they have some cycle reviews. So that's kind of the scenario that I see this company with. And for motivation, I really had not seen the scenario given. People really talking about vision. Uh, I'm assuming they have a vision somewhere that they might talk about it in some of the reviews, or that vision like fall into the cracks while the company evolved. And this, I see this happening a lot with medium-sized companies as they go. Like vision is really something, just a vision that is somewhere, but people cannot like break that vision down to the team level into achievable goals, and people really knowing how they contribute to that goals. So for that specific scenario here, when they say that things are improving, right, and they do not know what's wrong, they clearly do not know how they contribute, right? Because they're just doing what they are asked to do, and they think this is enough. So yes, we have a vision somewhere, is what I propose here. And this brings us to autonomy. And for autonomy, I'm giving the score here for honor management, because if we go back to the case again, uh, area management is trying to give some responses to the leadership, to the CTO, right? So CTO is saying, okay, we're even improving. Like I don't know what's wrong, right? So area management is giving some answers, and they are trying to improve, but I really do not see like them with the autonomy that they need to be able to work through, to be able to make sure that uh, to be able to make sure that they know what they need to do, or they have the autonomy to make what they need to make with the team, with the features, and to understand the problems. And if you see again that they're just, if you see the team saying like, we are just do what we are told to, it's clear like a problem with autonomy, right? So that's great. So this is kind of the shade. So when you have this spider graph done, uh, it will indicate you where the areas you need to improve. So it will be for accountability, autonomy, motivation, and learning. So I would say that medium-sized company needs to work a lot on accountability. So people need to feel accountable. They need to know what they own, and they need to be able to fail. And learning like had a key thing in the learning part too for the case scenario, where people feel that they own just the failures, right? So it's clear here that there's no psychological safety. There's not a learning culture established anyhow, because we have finger pointing, right? So it's clear in this scenario that people do not feel that they can fail. And this is a problem. This is an area that they need to improve a lot here. Like if you get from your team that they cannot fail, or they feel that they just own the failures, it's a huge problem. And for motivation, it's clear again that people really do not cascade things down. For motivation, you see that you have very low engagement at the team level, at the people level for that, because they really do not know what they do. It's clear that they're really not motivated at all, even because about the finger pointing. They cannot fail. They see that they just try to make velocity improve, and it's improving. So they really really not motivated in this piece here, and medium-sized company really needs to work a lot on motivation. How you do it? So they need to start from scratch. So they need to take the vision, cascade that down. So it seems that it's cascaded down at our area management level, but how they cascade that down to leadership level? That how to cascade that down to team level? So again, making sure that the metrics that you use, that the KPIs that you use are really clear to team leadership. So it's not about velocity, right? It's about how you give value to your customer. And what are the KPIs that will show you that? It's not about velocity, right? It's about making sure that people are motivated and they own and they know. So let's say uh, you can start like using the retrospective for that, saying, so how do you think that that feature that we deliver right now in this sprint or in this iteration is contributing to our vision, to our company goals, to make sure that we achieve what we achieve the value that we are proposing to our customers. So this is how you make people feel that they are part of something, right? So making sure that you link your everyday work to your KPIs, to your goals, but much more than that, how it's perceived by the customer in the other way around. And this brings us to autonomy. So it's clear here like that team leadership right, really do not have much autonomy on the things. Maybe area management has because they know that the velocity is improving, but not more than that. Uh, it's kind of how how they how they can improve, how they can have autonomy if they cannot make mistakes, right? If they and it was clear that in the learning dimension, like they cannot fail, right? So how you work the balance throughout all of these values, so accountability, learning, motivation, to be able to give autonomy to the team. As the team is really a tight hands here, they just do what they are told to, and they feel that. So it's wrong. Like people need to be able to say, okay, I own this piece and I have the autonomy to make changes to this piece, right? And again, autonomy is not chaos. It's about making sure that people own their part of the solution and they have everything they need to be able to make that happen and to overcome the problems and make decisions regarding that. Okay, so this is the medium-sized company. I'm sure all of you guys might have passed through some scenarios like that. If you empathize it to that, that's great. So this brings us to our next case study here, that is Meet the Startup. So for Meet the Startup, our startup is a SaaS delivery company that connects last mile carriers with big delivery companies. They are a team of 25 people in total, with a development team of 80 people, having a CTO and CPO working directly with the teams. They just completed a round investment to double the size of the team. A staffing company was contracted, and the new hires are starting to come. The clients are not satisfied with the quality of the product, as often they have issues with the app on tracking where the courier is. CTO says that the product is working fine, and he trusts 100% on his team to do the job. The team says they have everything they need to do for being able to do the job, including access to the production, but often gets lost on who to serve and what's the next step. They also say that they do not have time as they are always on fire. Uh, this is kind of a normal scenario that I've seen some startups. So when you, in some startups, like the founders stay very closely to the production in the beginning, and sometimes it's hard to take like this tie out when it's time to scale. And I can understand that because they're really related to the product. Sometimes they're really the founders. They actually work it in the code itself. So yes, it really happens. But when it's time to scale, this does not work anymore. And it's kind of an exercise to get through it. And let's see how we analyze the startup in the lens of the A.L.M.A framework based on this scenario. Okay, so for accountability, we can tell here that everyone feels accountable. So when you say that the CTO says that he trusts 100% on his team, that he gives access to production for the team, that the team is really like can make things happen. it's because they feel accountable. I believe in a people level too, because they have all the access that they need, uh, and they actually say that, right? Uh, but they are always on fire. But you can see that they really feel accountable because they start saying that they have everything to do, but they often get lost in who to serve and not and what's the next step. But they say that they can do and they are motivated to do it, right? So they are accountable for what they are doing because if they're not accountable, will not even have access to production. So this is why I'm proposing accountability at people level. For learning, I place learning at 1 because the case study here does not mention anything about following a method in Scrum, Kanban, whatever. And again, our framework is not about the method. And it's and they can have some occasional training. I believe that the CTO certainly might be aware of that and implementing these. Yes, I believe that they have some occasional training for the team, but they're not even following in method, as the case study is not even mentioning any of that. So yes, I believe that they have some occasional training, and the occasional training might even be happening between the team. So I'm placing a 1. Again, it's not something that we need to agree or not. The idea is that this case study scenario helps you guys think throughout the scenarios of your own companies and your own teams to be able to apply the framework. Brings us to motivation. And motivation is we have a vision somewhere. So the case study does not say anything about a vision, does not say anything about people knowing what they own, what part of the solution that they own. So I'm actually placing motivation as 1, 2. Uh, sometimes sometimes or majority of the times startups start with a clear purpose. They know what they do, but when it's time to scale, they really have difficulty on cascading that down to team levels, cascading that down to achievable goals, translating these into KPIs, and then making sure that the teams know what they know what they own and they know how they can contribute to that vision. So again, they can have some all hands. They can have something that is really like check it in a cycle basis. But with the scenario given, it's clear that they do not know how they can contribute. And again, it's key here for motivation, making sure that the vision is cascaded down throughout all the levels, and that at team level, people know how they can contribute to that vision. This brings us to autonomy. And for autonomy in the startup, it's great, right? People have access to production. And it's good that they have, right? It's good that CTO trusts them. But in this case scenario, I think like it's too much. You need to scale up. People are starting to come. How can everyone have access to production, right? So and like even if you link that back to learning, people are starting to come. How you train everyone if everyone has access to production? So it's kind of a chaos here. It's good that CTO trust. It's good that people are motivated on that because they have access to the production. They can do that things and they feel accountable for that. It's good that people feel accountable and have autonomy, but it's not. It's kind of create a chaotic scenario for the startup, our startup here. So what I would recommend for the startup would be take some steps back on accountability and autonomy, work more learning and motivation to make sure you can onboard your new hires. You have a process for doing that. You need to start following a process, and you need to place some guidelines to start, right? Because you're scaling very fast. So you cannot have a lot of autonomy and a lot of accountability if all of the other values are not accompanying that, right? So again, like start creating a learning culture, start placing a retrospective in place or any other method, creating like some reviews baked into the process. So it's not, again, about the matter. It's not about screens, but not about anything. It's about creating an environment that people can learn and can share their mistakes and can make sure that they have the psychological safety to fail and be able to share that with everyone. And much more important, focus on the learning of that and be able to share that learnings with everyone. And on the motivation part, like startups again really like tend to have a lot of difficulty in translating the vision or the purpose down to the teams, uh, understanding how to create KPIs, and from there like making sure that people understand how they what is their part on achieving that KPI. Do not need to be a direct relation. One mistake that I commonly see in startups is like, okay, it's too abstract, the vision or something like that, but start with that, like create the environment for doing it, create the space for doing it, like use your retros to ask your team uh, how they feel that what they are doing or what they are doing right now can contribute, even can be that ticket, right, that specific ticket that they delivered, do they think that they link back to the company vision. And even the teams can have visions, and this is in a more mature scenario, right, where you can create squads with different visions. But yes, you need to foster that, and people need to understand that they are part of the solution, and you need to include that on creating that vision too, right? So motivation here is about that. So more than when we are in the medium-sized company that we needed to improve from a step where we are, here we need to be able to work that from the hood, so from the top, making sure that the purpose of the company is translated into KPIs, that the KPIs are cascaded down to team leadership, and then the team leadership share that KPIs with the team, and people knows how the things are linked. So this is kind of a key thing here. Know what you want and how you contribute to that vision. And again, I'll take some steps back to accountability, autonomy, like start restricting production access and things like that, right? Making sure we have some processes in place. So you divide like accountability between the teams to work within learning and motivation and using a process to be able to do it, and then slowly taking the restrictions out, right? This is how you work with process improvement, even in a lean environment. I'm also a black belt certified, so you start with the more throughout full process you do in a process drawing environment, and then start taking out the restrictions. So this is what I would recommend for the startup. Okay, so these are the two scenarios that I wanted to share with you guys. And this brings us to the Q&A session for today. Again, it is great. It was great to having all of you guys here for the A.L.M.A Sage Framework session. Q&A is open. Ricardo is the moderator for us. Send the questions to the regular chat, and Ricardo will repeat that back to me so I can respond then. It's with you, Ricardo.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo, for this great session. It's very helpful for us, for the agility community around the world. So we are invited for everyone to send their messages, their questions. We have some message to thank you for the session as well. So before the meeting, we received some questions in our social media. I will ask you one of these questions until the people in the meeting can write more questions for us. Okay.
Sounds good. Let's
So
start with that.
okay. So the my first question is on the ALMA framework proposal for learning dimension. What is the real difference between levels 2 and 3? Some cycled reviews and reviews baked into the process.
Okay. This is a great question. Not sure who did that in our social media, but we need to make sure that we post that back, Ricardo. But it's a great question. So uh, the key difference here for some cycle reviews and reviews baked into the process is some cycle reviews is okay. You have Scrum and you do retrospectives, right? Uh, these would be like some cycled reviews. You do that, right? And you have when you have reviews baked into the process, it's more than that. You just not do Scrum or you just do not do any cycle reviews that is within a process, but you also benefit from there, right? You have a space where you capture your learnings and have some action items based on that. So we see a lot of companies that say that they follow Scrum or whatever methods, but do not actually was able to create an environment where they capture their learnings and their learnings are shared and you have action items based on that. So this is kind of the main difference between two and three.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we have another question about the motivation. On the motivation dimension from the framework for level 3 and 4, what is the difference between leadership having goals and people level? Uh, doesn't that mean the same thing if leadership knows what they need to achieve?
This is also a great question too, Ricardo. So when you get like team leadership has achievable goals tied to the vision or to the purpose of the company is a great start. But on the fourth level, you're able to link that KPIs or that company objectives that you have when you translated your purpose down to the leadership level into the people level. So they will know how that ticket in Jira that they are writing contribute to the vision, how that piece of integration that they own, again, own, right? So accountability contribute to that vision, how that feature that they are coding contribute to that vision. So keeping people motivated, right? So people are motivated when they feel that they are part of something, when they understand how what they do is really linked to the company vision. So they start owning it. They will start saying, okay, how if we do that? Because they we will have the space for that. They we start feeling that okay, I'm accountable for something. I know what I'm accountable for. I have a space where I can fail, right? Learning, and I'm motivated by that, and I have the space to exercise that motivation. So
Mhm.
that's why I say like the idea of the A.L.M.A framework is really to show you guys where the areas to improve, what are the values that you need to work within your teams,
Mhm.
right? Because of that. And this is kind of the main difference. So it's not just about KPIs, it's about making sure that these KPIs are perceived through the team level and they know how they contribute. And it's not about cascaded KPIs. I
Yeah.
really do not believe in individual metrics for a greater method, like individual metrics for people that will be cascaded through the whole KPI of the team. This does not work. This needs to be a shared KPI to the whole team, and people need to know how they contribute to that.
Yeah. I
Does
think this
that answer
kind
the question?
Yeah, for sure. I think this kind of the tools, it's amazing because we can have some compass for our action, our direction when we you improve our team, work with them. Yeah, thank you. So again, we invite for the people in the meeting to send for more questions. I have my own questions, so I tell you before. So
Go ahead.
for about the meet the startup studying case, for example, how you would suggest take steps back on autonomy?
Okay. It's a good question, Ricardo. Thanks for bringing that up. Uh, I think that you need to start placing some processes, start making some processes in place for being able to take some autonomy back. And it's okay, right? I know that you already kind of gave autonomy to all of your team, or to some key people on your team that you really trust. So why not use these people to be able to be a team leader? So promote that. So promote these people to be able to exercise that autonomy in a more broader company, in a more broader concept, and ask them to help you with the process implementation, right? So some people ask me about, okay, I have a senior dev that it's hard to bring him into a process, so but he's a great asset to the company, and I'm sure he's a great asset to the company. But now it's time to scale. Now it's time to think through the company and not just like not losing that specific dev, right? So start enabling these people to your side. So okay, you do not want to kind of follow a process or something like that. You want to have access to the production. Let's do the other way around. Like now, company wants you to be accountable for this piece of the solution, right? And I want you to help me drive in the process for this piece of the solution within your team. So you'll be a team leader or something like that. So this is how you take some steps back on autonomy, right? Identify key people that will be people that you trust, that will be helping you promoting the process that you're trying to implement. So again, you need to have a process for the startup here. You need to follow Scrum or whatever method you like, but you need to start having processes in place. And it's interesting here, Ricardo, that, and I believe you also agree with that. Like people always ask me about it. What's the best method to start for a company that does not have anything? Like I would say, there's no best method to anyone. It really is the best method for that company, for that scenario, right? So even if you need to draw your process from scratch, and I did that for a lot of companies I worked for. So let's go back to the simple lean process drawing, right? And see how it fits. And ask these people that now has full autonomy uh, how they see the process, how they can contribute to that process drawing, like bring them in. Don't you
Okay.
agree, Ricardo?
Yeah, thanks so much. Eduardo, we have only for more 3 minutes. And first of all, I say thank you for everyone who's attend this meeting. And I have one on question, and I use this time for question.
Okay, last
This
one.
question. Okay. It's about the medium-sized company student case.
Okay, let me
How
bring
you
that.
suggest leverage motivation up?
Okay, so the medium-sized company. Let me just bring that back. Okay, so you're asking about how to leverage
Exactly. Leverage motivation up.
motivation up. Uh, it's clear here that for the medium-sized company that they have a vision, that they have a purpose, but uh, it passes sometimes and like things stabilize it, and it's kind of that they are in agile limbo and do not know how to work and do not know where the problem is. So they need to rescue, I would say, the company purpose for the top management to be able to cascade that down to the teams. So again, just not just code numbers, but be able to actually tie that down to achievable goals, uh, and again tie that goals to team leadership level, and making sure that people know how to contribute on the fourth level. So to be able to leverage motivation up here, medium-sized company will need to rescue the vision of the company, make sure that they have KPIs, right? Because they might have something, and for medium-sized companies they normally have, but they're normally more tied to financial numbers. But even if they do, you need to be able to create an environment where people know how they're contributing. So let's say they just launched a new feature. So, and that feature was started to be used by 3 new customers. And that customers are, because of that feature adoption, they started bringing, I don't know, more 30K in revenue, in monthly revenue. So this is how you tie these things back, understanding what the pieces of the solution are. Another thing that I believe is key for medium-sized company is making sure that they balance all of the other values out, like accountability, learning, and autonomy. I would start with motivation, and then bringing people back, bringing people in to be able to give autonomy, to create a learning culture, and making sure that people know what they are.
Okay, thank you again, Eduardo.
And before we go, I really would like to, I will take a screenshot of everyone. So I will just bring up everyone's video so we can take a great screenshot here, everyone, before we go. So yes, if people, I just enabled everyone's video. If people can enable themselves, it will be great. So we can take a good picture of that. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Let me take that up. Again, thanks everyone for joining. It was really, 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 really great having you all here. And thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.